Hey YouTube, good morning. This morning I want to talk a little bit about reading, and I want to talk about my experience of how I read. And maybe by listening to this, if you listen to my story, maybe you can learn something from it, take something from it, or maybe just relate to it in your own way. So I read really quickly. That is, when I start a book, I want to finish it as soon as possible. So that might mean hitting it every day, just to get it. I think in my thinking, it's if I read this book quickly, I can finish it. And I think finishing it, sometimes for me, unfortunately, is the goal of reading a book. But there's a different way to come about it, and I can also tune into this sometimes, but not always, which is the benefits of slow reading. And what I mean by that is, well, I'll just give you a little story. Recently I finished Philip K. Dick's book, Flow My Tears, The Policeman Said. And kind of about 3/4 of the way through that, I was really getting into it, but I really wanted to read Dante's Inferno. So I finished Flow My Tears, and appreciated it, and didn't read it too fast, but didn't read it too slow, but fast enough. I got through it, and enjoyed it. So then I went out and got Dante's Inferno, and I brought it back, and I started reading it, and I was about 50 pages into it, and I thought, oh, I want to read Stanislaw Lem's The Siberiad. And as I was reading Dante, I was being pulled by Stanislaw Lem. And so I kept reading, trying to just trick myself into finishing Dante, while at the same time knowing that I wouldn't finish Dante. So what I did, I mean, and is last night, is I admitted this to myself, and I put down Dante, and I also had started the Siberiad. It's short stories, but I was in the middle of one story, and I just had these open books, and what I did after that is I got an older book of an author that I've studied for so many years, a thinker, a really deep, rich thinker, a richer thinker than myself, whose books I've studied for many, many years, I'll say 9 years. And I opened it up, and I really read it slowly, and for some reason, reading this familiar thinker, I was able to put myself into that really slow, concentrated, and meaningful way of reading, which I often don't do for some reason. I'm not sure. So yeah, the deep, slow reading. And I think what I was thinking about is that perhaps if you study one thinker in particular for a really long time, you really familiarize yourself with all their works, you write about their stuff, you talk about their stuff, you really try to live through their words and make their words your own. Perhaps if you have one or two or three or however many of these kinds of thinkers, these kinds of books, these kinds of works that really move you, then when you do come to them, the more you read them and the more you study them, the more their voice becomes familiar to you, and you slow down, and you start to get into their way of thinking. You start to get into their what they're trying to say, as opposed to your thoughts interfering with the text. You kind of move out of the way, and you let them come in. And so I think it's important to have these kinds of thinkers. Now, at the same time, I'm going to go back and I'm going to try to finish Dante, and I'm going to keep reading Stanislaw Lem. I'll just probably have to juggle them at the same time. Perhaps that's the difference between maybe non-fiction works, like thinkers and philosophy and communication and all this. Maybe they call a person in a different way than a science fiction book does, or any kind of novel does. Maybe it's just me. I'm really not sure about that. Okay, so I'm going to let it sit at that. Thanks for watching.